Welcome everyone to the Finding a Living Donor session, a peer-led interactive session for kidney and liver transplant candidates and advocates. I'd like to start off today with a land acknowledgement. Today, I would like to acknowledge that the sacred land in which we're meeting at the UHN Center for Living Organ Donation is the traditional territory of many nations, including the Mississaugas of the Credit, the Anishinaabe, the Chippewa, the Haudenosaunee, and the Wendat peoples, and is now home to many diverse First Nation, Inuit, and Métis people. We also acknowledge that Toronto is covered by Treaty 13, signed with the Mississaugas of the Credit, and the Williams Treaties, signed with multiple Mississaugas and Chippewa bands. This territory is covered by the Dish with One Spoon Wampum Belt Covenant, an agreement between the Anishinaabe and Haudenosaunee allied nations to peacefully share and care for the lands around the Great Lakes. We recognize and deeply appreciate the history and connection to these lands and the enduring presence, knowledge, and philosophies of Indigenous people living here today. We acknowledge the continuing accomplishments and contributions Indigenous people make in shaping and strengthening this community. We have a responsibility as beneficiaries to commit to acknowledging and understanding the history and the current experiences of First Nation, Inuit, and Métis people, and for the understanding to inform the work that we do at UHN, so that first we can stop perpetuating the damages of colonization, and second, to begin to repair them. Land acknowledgements are just one small first step in doing this work. We're grateful for the opportunity to meet here and reaffirm our commitment to make the promise and challenge of truth and reconciliation real in our communities, and to co-create collaborative, respective paths together. As a remote team, we encourage our team members, clients, and partners to reflect on colonization's enduring legacy and engage in reconciliation meaningfully. Thank you. We want to start off today with a little bit of information about the Center for Living Organ Donation. The Center for Living Organ Donation was created by UHN Transplant in 2018 to improve access to living organ donation for people who need a life-saving kidney or liver transplant, and for those who want to give a transformative gift of life. We have an info line and an email that you can contact us at any time. We do webinars like a Lunch and Learn series, as well as special topic series. We have a volunteer program, as well as education for patients and families, and community outreach. It is my pleasure to have two fantastic speakers and friends with me today, Afsana Lalani and Heather Badenoch, and I'm going to hand it over to Afsana to introduce herself now.
Hi everyone, my name is Afsana Lalani and I'm a registered nurse as well as a liver recipient from a living donor. I received my liver approximately 2.5 years ago now, and my donor is anonymous, and I did find my donor through a social media campaign. And to Heather.
Thanks so much, Afsana. I can't believe your transplant's already been that many years. That's so great. I'm a communication strategist. I'm based in Ottawa, and I'm a non-directed living liver donor, which means that I don't know who I gave to. I left it up to the transplant team to choose the person who needed it the most. Easily one of the most joyful things I have ever done, and I would do it again.
Amazing. Thank you both. And I am Candace Coughlin. I'm the Center for Living Organ Donation's Education and Outreach Coordinator. And I'm also a kidney transplant recipient from a living donor. Back in 2009, my mother donated her kidney to me, and we will be celebrating 15 years on September 9th of this year. So it's a really exciting year for us as well. And before we start, we want you to think about a couple things today. We want you to think about where you are on your journey. Have you not started? Have you begun exploring living organ donation and transplant? Have you started a conversation with family and friends? Have you started a public appeal? Or are you not quite sure where you are? We also want to know, how comfortable are you? So whether it's you who are sharing the journey of your own journey, or if you're supporting a loved one's journey in starting this conversation, are you very uncomfortable about having this conversation about finding a living donor? Are you somewhat uncomfortable, uncertain how you feel, somewhat comfortable, or very comfortable about this? And at this stage, what level of public are you feeling comfortable with? Are you not comfortable going public? You would be comfortable speaking to your close family and friends, comfortable with an email within your workplace or community that could be forwarded to others, comfortable with a public social media page that could be potentially seen by thousands, or comfortable with media interviews that could be seen by hundreds of thousands. We want you to think about those thoughts as we go through today, and we're going to ask you the same questions again at the end of this session, and hopefully we move you forward into more of a comfortable zone. For our agenda today, we have quite a few things that we're going to talk about. We're going to talk about living organ donation, the benefits, who can be a donor, talking about champions. We're going to talk about the information that you need before you get started in writing your story. Then how to find your living donor. So the big question of the day. We're going to talk about the steps to creating your appeal, how to write that appeal, deciding where to share, how to launch that campaign, and then some things to keep in mind and further resources to take away. Beginning with the benefits of living organ donation. Living organ donation allows for many things compared to deceased donation, or as some people say, angel donors. It allows for a shorter wait for transplant. On average, people who are waiting for a deceased donor transplant are going to wait much longer because the need for organs in Ontario and in Canada far exceeds the amount of organs that we have. So many people wait quite a long time for their transplant. Generally, with a living donor, you can have that transplant within that year. This is also a planned surgery, so you know the exact date of when that surgery is going to happen. You can plan for things like being off work, somebody to take care of your animals or your home, even prepping things like food for the freezer so that when you get home after that surgery, you have some food there ready for you. On average, living donors provide organs that have better outcomes, and the recovery is much faster. It also reduces the risk of getting sicker or dying while waiting, or missing that opportunity for a transplant. We know that that call for a deceased donor organ could come at any time of the day and night, and we may be at work and we don't get our call, or sleeping through the call, or not even in the country on vacation. Having that living donation allows for us to be prepared, to plan it, and have a shorter wait for that transplant. And
Thanks,
now I'm
Candace.
going to pass it over to Heather to talk to us a little bit about who can be a living donor.
Thanks so much, Candace. So there are actually more people who can be living donors than you might think. You might be the friend of someone who's waiting for a transplant. You might be a coworker, community member. It could be someone anonymous. You may not know each other, but someone might step forward to give to you simply because they saw in a community bulletin or a community bulletin of some sort that you were waiting. You do not need to be a biological relation to the person that you give to. And so don't hesitate to cast your net really wide. While someone doesn't need to be related to you to give to you, the person who gives to you is most likely to be within your extended network. And we really do mean extended, and we have some great examples of this later in the presentation. The criteria to be a living organ donor is different than to be a blood donor. So if you're not eligible to be a blood donor, you might still be eligible to be a living organ donor. And like we said, you don't need to be related. Okay, so why do living donors donate? I feel well equipped to speak to this slide as someone who's already done it. So a living donor might have a connection to transplant, right? And so you might become a living donor because you know someone who's waiting. Some of us just give because we feel ridiculously lucky about how healthy we are. And we think, well, if I'm this lucky and someone else wasn't this lucky, why wouldn't I take some time out of my life to give someone the rest of their life and share my good health with them? Also, like I said, it is ridiculously joyful to be a living donor. I feel emotional just saying those words. And so it is truly meaningful, and those good feelings don't go away. Saving a life is pretty remarkable. I learned recently that my recipient, while I don't know who they are, is alive and well, and that's the most wonderful news possible. Sometimes people are living donors because they have a connection to the recipient. So you know someone who is waiting. So it's your parent, it's your sibling, it's your coworker, it's your child, and we don't want to lose that person. We want that person in our life. And so if we are healthy enough to be a living donor, many people think, well, why wouldn't I? It's selfish. I want this person around, and so I want to keep them in my life, and that's why we give.
So, how do you find a living donor? I asked myself this 2 years ago and I was listed and I had no idea. So, here I am now with a living donor and post transplant to tell you all it is possible to find a living donor if they're not in your immediate circle. And so, I would encourage you all to share your story and let your family and friends know that living donation is the best pathway for transplantation. And I want to emphasize that you're not asking specifically for a donor at all. You are asking for your story to be shared and your journey. That's all we're really asking for in this moment because it's the best approach here for you and for your donor on this journey together. So identify maybe a family member or a friend who could help spread the word on your behalf. And, it's important to consider media or social media carefully. It is such a broad and wide spectrum on social media that could help you get that rapid expansion and growth in your story and get a lot more reach with that, as well as more eyes on your story and what you need.
So, as Afsana mentioned, engage maybe a champion, engage other people who can help in your search. And Afsana had a huge network of people behind her who love her, wanted to see her find a donor, and that makes all the difference in the world. There are so many reasons why you want to have this champion, these people in your life who are really helping with you with your search for a donor. As the potential recipient, starting that conversation might feel really hard. How many times do you feel like you have the energy and the emotions to tell a really difficult story about how sick you are? Maybe you're comfortable with it, but maybe you're not. The people who are the champions who surround the recipient in that search for a living donor are also emotional support. We care about this person very, very much who's looking. Also, there are so many people out there who just don't know about living organ donation, or they don't understand the details around it. Maybe they know that something like this exists, but they've never stopped to think about, like, can I live with one kidney? Or, oh, I didn't know the liver grows back, right? And so these are the sorts of details that your champions can help with. And so these are the folks that might help you build your appeal, no matter how private or how public it is. They're also going to help you to push it out there, right? They're going to take that off your plate because it can be really tiring to be the recipient, to be sick, and it can be tiring to be that immediate caregiver, right? So this is that circle of people that you let in to help you. People want to help. They just don't always know how. So give them something to do. This is a thing to do if you don't need more casseroles. And so these are folks who are going to be comfortable sharing your story. You're looking for a team that has some skill sets. Okay. So you need a good writer in there, maybe a couple of good writers. You need at least one person who's kind of social media savvy if you want to be more public. Um, if there's a person who knows a journalist or two, maybe you have a friend who's a producer at a local radio station. And so think about who those people are in your network who want to help, they don't know how, and they have these connections that might really help you find a donor. Okay, there are so many ways to get the message out. And I mentioned at the beginning that I do communications for a living. So let's talk about some of these, right? So there's conversations. There's just going out and talking to people and spreading the word. And again, not asking anyone to be your donor, just asking folks to share what's going on. If you're feeling private, maybe you want to start with sending an email. Maybe this is the comfortable starting point to tell friends, family, maybe colleagues. What comes to mind as I say this is a fellow living donor who gave to a former boss's son, simply because she was at her office one day, got the email, and realized, I've never thought about this before, but now I want to do it. And she did, right? Are there blogs? Do you belong to a community that has a newsletter? Is it your knitting community? Is it your community of worship? Are there people that you know who put out announcements about various things? Would they include a message about your need for a living organ donor? Think about your city councilor. Think about your community paper. Are you on social media? And not just are you on social media as the potential recipient, but what about all of your champions? And what about other people that you know? Again, the city councilor, that producer in that newsroom, who's got a big social media following? As I recall, one of Afsana's close friends is a big influencer. You got to know that that helped, right? There's local newspapers. Journalists are looking for content every single day. They have deadlines every single day, newspaper, radio, TV. And so if you pick up the phone or send an email to that tips email address at that news outlet, they're probably quite happy to receive your story.
One thing I'll share that actually just recently went to news here at UHN was every year I send out an email to all staff at UHN, and it's all about Living Donation Week and all of the amazing things that they can get involved in. And a woman read that. She was actually working in lab medicine, a very helpful part of transplant. She read that email and thought, I've never thought about being a living donor, but I donate blood. Maybe I should take a look at this. So she looked at some of the information on our website. She then went and downloaded the health history form that she had to fill out to be a living donor, filled it all out, and then put it on her lab desk and said to herself, if I'm still this passionate about being a living donor in 6 months, I'm going to submit it. And every day she looked at that health history form and was encouraged. And at the 6-month mark, she had a calendar alert on her calendar that said, what are you doing with this health history form? And she decided to submit it. It's incredibly beautiful to say that she ended up being an anonymous living donor. And now this Living Donation Week, we're going to be sharing her story as well as mine, and sharing with our UHN team that there's people who even work here who have decided to step forward. So you never know who it's going to be. You're going to hear over and over today, you never know who your donor is going to be or where they're going to come from. And we're going to share a lot of stories about that as well. But it's just so recent that I thought it would be pretty amazing that you could hear from just an email that that woman decided to be an anonymous donor. Before we get started in talking about the appeal and what we're going to write down, we want you to collect some information for yourself that's going to be really helpful in writing this appeal. We're going to make sure that either you or your loved one is on the transplant list and that you're eligible for a living donor. And your team will let you know if both of these are thumbs up. For people who are waiting, we want to know the blood type that you are so that we can share what blood type the living donor can be. And as you can see, there's a little chart up there in the top right that shows if you're blood type O, you can receive an organ from blood type O, all the way down to if you're blood type AB, you can receive an organ from any blood type. And this is why people who have blood type O are waiting the longest on the wait list, because they can only receive an organ from blood type O. So for kidney and for liver, we're going to want to know what blood type you are so that we can tell people what blood types the living donors can be. Now, with a kidney transplant, we do have the Canadian Blood Services Kidney Paired Donation Program. And this is in case a donor is found, but they're not either a blood match for you, or maybe they're incompatible in some way, but they're still a really healthy, eligible donor. And what you can do is you can go into this program with your donor who doesn't match you. And all across Canada, 3 times a year, Canadian Blood Services matches incompatible donors and recipients. And we call it like a kidney swap. And so incompatible donors donate to recipients all across Canada. People swap kidneys. I've heard of chains as small as 4 and as large as 24, and they're ongoing throughout the year. So if you have a donor who's not compatible with a blood type, but is a healthy, eligible donor, you can enter that kidney pair donation program. For liver, there are some places across Canada who have had a liver paired exchange program, but it's very rare. You can ask about this. We also want to know how the transplant center wants to be contacted with questions from potential donors. So if you're at UHN, you can reach out directly to the Center for Living Organ Donation. Donors can send their questions to us, and we can answer all of their questions. We can set up calls with them to talk about the process, and we can also connect them to people who have been through this process before. And then how to apply to your transplant center to be a living donor. So at UHN, there is a link for a 12-page health history form that living donor is going to fill out. And they're also going to provide proof of their blood type when they send that in. They're going to email it to the living donor team, and then that living donor team can review that application and assess whether or not they think they would like to move forward with that person. Now I am going to hand it over again to talk a little bit about how to write this appeal.
Thanks, Candace. So when we're talking about writing an appeal, we'll go over a couple of things. One being putting your story down on paper, collecting information for applicants, and creating your pitch. So let's get into how to put your story down on paper. It's quite overwhelming sometimes. As a recipient, I know how hard that can be to write things out word for word, your personal experience. And I promise you that it is worth it. And it is hard, but it is possible. And I'm living proof of that. So I hope that all of you guys will, muster up a little bit of courage and bravery and start typing away or writing away your story. And we've helped you a little bit by providing some prompts here. So we asked, who is the person that needs a transplant? In my case, it was me. And so I wrote a little bit about me, what my hobbies were, and what I like doing in my free time. That was very important to me. So I would encourage you guys to also incorporate a little bit about that. And then how your life has changed since your health started to decline. I know that's never fun to talk about, but it is something that we should talk about. We should make the public aware of our own experiences because they are experiences that happen. Then, what's something you're looking forward to after transplant? For me, it was, graduating nursing school, becoming a nurse, and being able to spend more time with family. Maybe for you, it's getting to travel. A lot of people in the world love to travel. So if you're dreaming of that destination in Greece or Italy, please write that in there too. So here's an example of a story that was written for a campaign of an individual named Vanessa. She is a powerful daughter, sister, aunt, and she has a lovely dog. So we learn a lot in this story about Vanessa, her hobbies, her professional and personal life, even her diagnosis is in there and how she's been feeling. But what we don't see here is how living donors can apply to be her donor. But we are connected to who she is. So that part is fantastic to read. So moving on to incorporating into your appeal, collecting information for applicants. So here's a little bit of information we've provided to help you guys out a little bit as well. So you want to make sure that the intended recipient, so your blood type, the patient's blood type, who needs the organ, whether liver, kidney, you want to make sure your blood type is outlined there, and the compatible blood types, meaning the ones that you can receive from, are outlined in your appeal. And even if you are a kidney patient and you're part of the kidney paired exchange program, you'd want to outline that as well. Put it all out there for everyone to read. And then your age range for donors. Then also incorporate which hospital you're listed at. So for me, it was at UHN. So I made sure to write Toronto General Hospital, UHN. Make sure you spell it out for them. The spelling is correct in your post, and it's outlined in nice big letters. And then you want to make sure you put in the surgery details, like the liver grows back and how long it takes maybe for that to happen for a donor. And they can live a healthy life with only one kidney. Like Heather was saying before, not a lot of people actually know these 2 points about liver and kidneys. So it's nice to throw it out there so people actually can read that and be like, oh, I didn't know that. it doesn't seem so bad. Maybe I can do this. Then how do you apply? Usually a nice link in there helps and goes very far. They can just click the link for easy access. So I'd encourage all of you guys to do that as well. And then finally, where can they find out more about living donation? So usually we would incorporate a contact for the center that you are listed at, and maybe even if they have any info sessions for donors or even recipients, good to put in there as well. So back to our example, here is take 2 of Vanessa's story. And we see a lot of great info here about Vanessa and how she is currently looking for a donor. And we see the information that she's put in there for potential donors needing to apply, and information about the surgery and any questions they have and who to reach out to with the contact information too. Love it. Love to see all of this. So then the first example we went over before reading this one, we saw a lot about who she is, but this one, we're seeing a lot of the information that donors need, which both of them had great pros to them, but alone they struggled and lacked a little bit in the tail end. So maybe we could put them together.
Thank you, Afsana. So now we're going to put it all together. And so, like Afsana said, you've got the storytelling piece and you've got all the details piece, and both are really important. People need to know the details of what you need and how to give to you, but they also need to feel that connection to you. What city do you live in? And what kinds of hobbies and interests do you have? Because feeling that connection, as we're going to talk about more, might be the reason that someone steps forward. So we think a little bit about our structure. There's an expression in journalism, it's called "don't bury the lead." And what that means is you open with a summary of what you're going to tell someone. One of the top mistakes that we see when someone is creating an appeal, be it social media, be it an email, whatever, they tell their whole story and then they end with the fact that they need a living donor. Unfortunately, people may not read all the way through. And if they know that you've been sick, they might not realize that that crucial update is at the end. They might just think, oh, I already know about your illness. And so maybe they don't actually make it to the end of that message. You need to lead with, I'm looking for a living donor, and these are the blood types. This is the city I'm in. We're going to tell you a little more about how to apply. So don't bury the lead, open with this critical information, and then share that storytelling piece, your hobbies, your interests, what you're looking forward to, all of that travel. And then make sure to tell folks things like, there's a reimbursement program and this is what it is in this province. So if you have expenses, you're going to get reimbursed this way. Or here's how to apply, here's how to get through to that application form. Or here's who to call to anonymously answer those questions that you might have. And so we think about these critical details as we pull it all together. So we're going to look at an example next. Okay, I remember this one well. And I'm going to jump to the punchline, which is that they are doing extremely well. They did get a donor. And so you see the structure here. So there's their name. And right away it says, I'm looking for a living liver donor, right? So we specify the organ, liver donor with blood type O positive or O negative. Quick tip, if you just put blood type O, people will assume you've made a mistake and that you forgot to indicate positive or negative. So put both in, that's pretty important. This appeal also says where they live and why they're on the transplant list. That's up to you. You want to say why you're on the transplant list, you can say it, but if you don't want to say, don't say it. This is your personal health information. And then they get into a bunch of details, right, about who can give. They share some stories about their family, some things about, they want to go on and live a relatively normal life. They share what schools they went to, some things that they enjoyed doing, some shows they like to watch. They did actually go on after transplant to go back to school, which is pretty remarkable. And so you see really important details all pulled together in this appeal. This text, and this is a template that you can get from UHN, this text could be an email. This text could be a social media post. This text could be created and used and customized any way that you need, really. And I would say that when you're making a social media post, which this was, every single post needs to be able to stand on its own. Our hope is that it's going to get shared and shared and shared. But if it makes its way to Texas, that person in Texas needs to know, well, I'm actually in Brampton, I need a donor in Toronto. And so you want them to have enough information in every single post to be able to figure out how to give to you. Here's the link. Here's all the details.
The other thing I think that's super important, we've been talking about how we're not asking for a living donor. We're sharing our story. And if you can see on this example, the one thing that I tell everybody when I talk to is the ask is please share. So you can see the very first thing that people are reading is please share. So that's what we're asking people to do. We're going to focus on that and ask people to share our story and share our journey, and then go on to talking about that journey, which is really important for people to see because, as Afsana said, and for myself, it can be really hard to talk about finding a living donor. But if we know that our only ask is to share our journeys so that a potential donor can step forward, kind of eases that fear of all of us.
Really important points. Thank you so much, Candace. Here are a couple of real examples. And again, going to cut to the good news, which is that every one of these appeals was successful and they all got living donors. So you see they all lead with please share. As Candace pointed out, that's the ask. That anyone's going to do for you. That's not an awkward thing to ask people to do. Also notice that these are all social media appeals. And these are Facebook posts. Only about the first at 200 or 250 characters are going to show before the see more. And so this comes back to this journalism, don't bury the lead. You want pertinent information above the see more. Less than 1% of people, I'm sorry to say, click the see more. And so also notice the information that's in the graphic, really carefully chosen text that has the city, the blood types they could receive from, and the city where the surgery will happen. These are pertinent details. So if you can get someone to stop scrolling and get their attention, these are the things that they need to know right away. With Pam, and she's in the center there with her family, she's got the lovely scarf on. She was a nurse. And so everything about her campaign emphasized that she was a nurse. And we're really hoping to connect with that community, but also tell people this is a person who's given a lot of herself, right? Wes in the center. Wes is an extremely avid cyclist. He and his wife are extremely active. And so this is one photo that we used. We also used a photo where you see Wes and his wife cycling. And what happened with that is that the active cycling athletic community in Toronto really adopt this appeal like their own. And so whether they knew Wes or not, within the athletic community in Toronto, they shared and shared and shared. And Wes did in fact receive. And then we see on the right-hand side, this beautiful appeal where again, that critical text, right? So please share all the details above the see more, and then all of those important details in the graphic text. And so there's this consistency here among the graphics. And so while each appeal is separate and individual, between Afsana and I and Candace, we've worked on enough of these and spoken with enough patients that there is a model that works. And so we're so happy to share it today.
One of the things I love about using Facebook is that there is this button you can press that shows the data insights, and it collects all this background information on your posts to be able to track and provide numbers like we see on the screen right now, so that we know what the engagement is like with our campaigns that are running, to tell you whether it's doing well or not, and whether we need to kind of push a little bit harder with the campaign, or see if we can, take a breath, take a week off and relax for a minute. So here we can see that there are post impressions, there are post reach, and post engagement with a bunch of numbers. And that's great. Those are a lot of numbers. It's okay if you don't understand them. The ones that you should really care about is called link clicks. It's the one circled right there on the picture. And that is really important because the link we provide in our post that we write up in that first appeal is the link to the application page and the link to potentially learning more information to be a living donor. And clicking that link can indicate someone's interested. Someone may actually fill out that application. Someone is trying to learn more. So that's why link clicks is such a valuable number to see. 182 clicks here that we see, that's amazing. That's how many people went ahead and clicked that link, potentially the application, and maybe even went as far as filling it out and sending it into the hospital for that baby. Wow, right? 182. Let's think about that for a minute. That's a lot of people out there. It's completely different though when you're looking at, likes and shares. A lot of people like to focus on those numbers. That many people liked it, that many people shared it. That's amazing. But it doesn't tell us that much. Did those people fill out an application? I don't know. Did those people go ahead and read more information about being a donor? We don't know. But link clicks tells us a little bit more. So if you have a Facebook campaign page up and running, I really, really assure you guys, and I promise you, that's the one to look at. So please go look. It's there. You just got to find it.
Thanks, Oksana. Once we decide what we are going to share, we're now going to think about where we're going to share. So often as a patient, you may feel like you only know one or two people within your circle. We might know our family, maybe one or two friends, but what we want to think about is that extended community that all of us are connected to. It could include people like your neighbors, your coworkers, groups, affiliations that you're part of, faith groups. And then we're going to consider social media, and we're going to have more of that on the next slide. Involve your family and friends. So again, we're going to talk to our family and friends about how living donation is the best pathway to transplant, and help identify a family member or friend that can search on our behalf. This is a fun little mind sweeper that we play thinking about our extended network. It was actually taken from a multi-level marketing company, from people who try to think about how many people they can bring to their Tupperware party. So trying to think about outside of that group that we often think of. And one of these people that stands out on the list that I always think about is hairdresser. A lot of us go to our hairdresser frequently. I've had the same hairdresser for over 20 years. So he knows everything about me. And so this person might be somebody who would be willing to share on your behalf or even become a champion for you. Also, people like your accountant. We see them once a year. This might be somebody also who has a really large network. So take a look at this list and take some time to really think about the people who are within your network that you may not think about often, but who also care about you, who know you, and would be willing to share your appeal for you so that you can gain greater awareness about that need. When we decide where we're going to share, if we think about using social media, we want to balance the pros and cons. And this is up to you about how large or small you're going to share in regards to, like Heather talked about, whether it's an email, conversations, or if you're going to go with social media. The pros of social media is it's an extremely effective way to share an appeal quickly with a large group of people in your network, but also beyond. So as we saw and what Oksana showed us, those campaigns can be shared very widely. It's very easy on Facebook to hit share. And then once that person's done that, that's shared to a whole new network. There's no financial cost to social media unless you decide to boost posts. So you can absolutely pay small amounts to boost those posts to get a greater audience outside of the audience that you have. And that appeal can be reshared and gain traction on its own. Anybody can share that appeal, and it can be shown to a new group of people that may not know you directly. Also, the transplant community is very active on social media. And when we find that there is somebody in need of a donor, of course, we are going to share on our social media and try to find that person a donor. Now, the cons of social media are you are disclosing personal health information. So that privacy is now out in the open. It might involve details of your family, your work life, or other sensitive information. It is your information to share. However, once it's made public, we don't have any control of where it will go or how it will be used. So that privacy about that information is now gone once it's posted on social media. No matter where you choose to share, we always want to remember consent. We want to be considerate of anyone who's involved in the story and respect their privacy. So we always ask for consent for pictures or recordings of the campaign and to get permission for people who are part of that campaign. Also, if you do receive a donation from an anonymous living donor or a deceased donor, we ask that you refrain from sharing the exact date and time of that surgery to respect the privacy of those involved. So in Ontario, we protect the identity of anonymous living donors as well as deceased donors. Everybody is excited when they have their surgery and they want to share with the world that, hey, someone saved my life and I'm so grateful. Rather than sharing the exact date and time, you can say, this week, I received my life-saving gift. Or if it's in the fall, this fall, I received my life-saving gift and now I am so grateful for that donor and that donor's family, and you can say thanks in that way. That way we can protect the identity of those people. When we think about where we're going to share, we're going to set ourselves up for success. So if you decide to use social media, we want to create a new page for the appeal rather than using your general page. Because when we create a new page, that's the center focus of this campaign. Whereas sometimes it can get bogged down in our personal pages when we're posting stuff about work or cats or dogs or cute photos of baby animals. Whereas if we have a page that's focused for this campaign, you can share it on your page and other people can share it, but there's a focus to that campaign. When we're looking at in the details of the information of this page, it'll ask for an email address. And in that email address spot, you can put our information there. You can put livingorgandonation@uhn.ca as your email address so that you don't have to worry about questions that potential donors may have. You don't have to manage those inquiries. They will come directly to us and we can answer them very quickly for them. We suggest you create a schedule to keep things manageable and continue posting as often as you feel comfortable. Some people have said to me, well, I did my main post about what my need is. What do I post about now? And we want people to get to know you and to know how you're doing. So I have a gentleman who just let me know that most of his family, even though he's on dialysis, didn't know what a dialysis machine looked like. So he did a quick reel while he was on dialysis showing people, here's my dialysis catheter. The blood comes out of my body. It gets cleaned in this really amazing machine and comes back into my body clean. So little things like that about what you're up to, how your day is. Other people have posted about walking their dog and how they're really excited for their life post-transplant to instead of just walk their dog, but run with their dog or bike with their dog. And then again, don't be afraid to ask for help. There are so many of us here who are willing and ready to help you. Once we know what we're posting and where we're going to post, we're going to launch our campaign. So get your story out there. Stay positive and keep sharing. It can take time for donors to see your post. It can take time for them to get the information collected, to submit that health history form. So keep sharing and stay positive. We know that not everybody can be a living donor, but everyone can share your story and champion your cause. So if somebody steps forward and says, I wish I could be your living donor, but I'm not eligible, how can I help? Don't brush it off and say, oh, no, I'm good. Thank you so much. That's the tendency of all of us to do. Let them know how they can help you. Let them know that you have your story out there and you need it to be shared to find a living donor. Maybe ask if they have any connections with community groups or like Heather was talking about with media outlets. Not everyone can be a living donor, but everyone can support and champion your cause. Some things to keep in mind. Potential donors can learn more and ask questions by reaching out directly to the Center for Living Organ Donation. Many people will have questions sent to them about donor criteria or about the application, and we ask that you don't give medical advice about that. All of the donor criteria is listed on our website. And if they have medical questions, they can reach out to us or their coordinators or their transplant teams to ask those specific questions. The donor team will assess one donor at a time, and the assessment will determine if it's safe for that potential donor to donate or not. And during that screening process, the transplant team will discuss in depth the risks with the donors. Candidates can withdraw at any time and their privacy will be respected. So the living donor team is separate from the recipient team, and they don't communicate with one another about the process of the living donors and the eligibility of those living donors. So at any time, if somebody felt that they weren't able to continue on in that process, they could withdraw and their privacy will be respected. As a transplant center, we can't share how many potential donors have applied or stepped forward. We can't tell you who they are either, but we can confirm if they're applicants or if you need to continue searching. So you can reach out to us and say, I put out an appeal 6 weeks ago. I'm just wondering if I should continue to post to this appeal, continue to share and see if I can find donors, or if there's somebody in workup and I don't have to continue to post, and we can let you know. Again, try to stay positive and keep sharing. There may also be some donors who are not within Canada, who are interested in becoming your living donor, but want to know the process and if they're able to. And many hospitals across Canada support living donors from outside of Canada coming to donate an organ to their loved ones. The process has many more steps. However, there's lots of successful stories of people who have donated to loved ones who have come from outside of Canada. And we partnered with St. Michael's Hospital to do a webinar about out-of-country living donors. And you can take a look at that on the center's YouTube channel, and it goes into depth about the steps that somebody who does not live in Canada have to go through to become a living donor. In Ontario, OHIP will cover the costs of surgery and hospital-related costs for the living donor under the recipient's OHIP. So for some final thoughts, I'm going to start by throwing it over to Afsana.
Thanks, Candace. Don't forget to tell your story. It's not an ask. We're really just saying, please share. We are telling our story and we are sharing. That's all. There's no, please be my donor. Then advocates and champions can help spread the word. So remember, Heather was discussing what a champion is. It can be anyone out there, someone who can help share your story out there further as much as possible and as wide as possible. And get the facts from your transplant team. So don't go on Wikipedia looking for facts. Go straight to your doctor, your team, and say, hey, what's going on here? I need this information. And if you could help me, that would be lovely. They'll give you the information, and that's the info we use.
All right, so we're also going to take our cues from how journalists do their job. Don't bury the lead. So whether you're sending an email, doing a social media post, pitching something to the media, right? The fact that you need a living organ donor, right up top. The blood types you can receive from, right up top. The city that you're in, right up top. Along with where the transplant might take place. Maybe you live in Ottawa and your transplant's going to be in Toronto. Let people know. The search takes time and it takes patience. It's hard to be on the transplant list. And from the time that we start asking people to spread the word until we get word that there is a living donor can be months. And I know that that's tough, but hang in there. Do your best to keep working with your champions and keep pushing. And just again, as a living donor, we genuinely want to donate. We genuinely want to give. It's this switch that clicks in our brain when we see someone's story, and many of us make a snap decision and we just sign up like, yes, oh my gosh, I'm going to do this. I feel this incredible pull to do this. And most of us donors would say, and it's absolutely true for me, I would do it again. I would do it again in a heartbeat.
Amazing. Know that there is a community of support ready to help. So there's 3 people on the call right now who are willing to help you, but there are so many more people out there who are willing to help as well. We can connect you with mentors. We can connect you with people who have been through this before. There are so many people out there who want to help you and who are ready to support. And know that you are worthy. As Heather said, as Afsana said, this is a scary point in our lives. It's really nerve-wracking and, again, scary to tell our stories and to be vulnerable about what we're going through, but you're worthy. You're worthy of doing this. There's a donor out there who wants to donate to you and who's going to give you that gift of life and that chance to continue your life. So know that you are worthy and that we are here to support you, and keep strong.
So can we leave you with some success stories that we absolutely love that illustrate we don't just mean when your network, immediate friends and family, and how broad your reach might be. So the wonderful Janine on the far left had a terrifically successful public appeal to get a living kidney donor. The top story, you can see that the gentleman in the bed needed a living donor. A classmate from 50 years ago saw his appeal and donated to him. On the top right, that's a Canadian story. I think this one's from British Columbia. It's a CBC story I can see. A hot dog stand owner and customer went from being strangers to being friends because of kidney donation, right? What an incredible story. And then, down below, we see that folks have a really incredible bond after living kidney donation. So we promise you, you're never going to know where you might receive from.
Now, after this presentation, you're going to receive an email with lots of further resources for you. So we have a Finding a Living Donor resource hub. We have the living donor templates. So either a kidney or a liver appeal template that you can take a look at. You can fill in your own information. You can learn about what other people have written, similar to what we've talked about today, and how to, like Heather has said, not bury that lead. We have a social media and public appeals template. We have an online resource library. We're on social media at givelifeUHN. And then we have the Living Transplant podcast, which has many stories about people who have been through the transplant process, either as living donors, recipients. We also have experts on the podcast. So we hear from people with lived experience, and then we hear from experts in the field. And again, all of these resources will be sent to you after this session. If you have decided to set up a campaign and it has been running for 4 weeks and you've not seen any success, and by success, we mean clicks to the website or donors stepping forward, please reach out to us at livingorgandonation@uhn.ca, as we have further support that can help you. So please reach out to us if you're finding that your campaign has stalled and you need more support to keep it going. We have education sessions every Tuesday of the month. We have information for potential living kidney donors, information for potential living liver donors, how to find a living donor, financial supports for living donors, and caregiver information. All of these are free. They're all at 12 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, and you can register at givelifeuhn.eventbrite.ca. We also have our new campaign, the Great Actions Leave a Mark campaign, which is images and videos of stories of living donors who have donated either a portion of their liver or a kidney to recipients. So you can hear about their stories as a recipient or as a donor, and it's coast to coast from British Columbia all the way to Atlantic, Canada. So you can go to greatactions.ca and see all of those stories. We have a center YouTube channel at givelifeuhn. And as you can see there, there's a whole playlist about finding a living donor that you can check out interesting stories from Good Morning America or CBC News. Also get more information about what we've talked about today. There's also health information. There's stories of living donors, lots of information from the experts as well. We also have an African, Caribbean, and Black Organ Health YouTube channel at ACB Organ Health. And Janine Johnson, who we showed her story of finding a living donor, she hosts a show called The Green Table Talk, where she interviews people with lived experience with transplant and experts within the field.
Now that we're at the end of this session, we wanted to circle back to some of the questions we asked you at the beginning of the session to see where your comfort level lies. So let's reflect. How comfortable are you really in sharing your story to find a living donor? Are we still very uncomfortable or somewhat uncomfortable? Are we very comfortable now or somewhat uncomfortable, or maybe we're just not certain yet how we feel? And that's okay too. At this stage, what level of public are you feeling comfortable with? I would be comfortable speaking with my close friends and family, or I would be comfortable with an email within my workplace and or community that can be forwarded to others. I'd be comfortable with a public social media page that could be seen by thousands. I'd be comfortable with a media interview that could be seen by hundreds of thousands. So a media interview could be TV broadcasted, could be a radio, could be for a newspaper. Are we comfortable with that? Or are we not comfortable with any of the above right now? And again, totally okay to be at any step of this process.
For more information, if you have questions, if you want to reach out to us, you can reach out anytime to the Center for Living Organ Donation. We have our phone number there that goes to a voicemail, or you can send us an email at livingorgandonation@uhn.ca. You can take a look at donor guides, you can take a look at our transplant library, and you can visit us on social media as well. We also have a special thanks. We are so incredibly grateful to all of our donors, partners, volunteers, committee members, and generous founding supporters, Kearney and Cahill families, the UHN Foundation. And to learn more about how to support the center, you can visit uhnfoundation.ca/living organ donation. And a huge thank you to my co-hosts today, to Heather Badenoch and Afsana Lalani, for all of their incredible support and work. And we just want to leave you with knowing that we're here to support you. You can absolutely do this, and feel free to reach out anytime. Thank you so much, and happy Living Donation Week.